Hey everybody, welcome to the Start Marketing Podcast. This is Joe Sanders with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a fabulous episode, but if you have not yet subscribed to our podcast, please do. There's a little button somewhere probably near your screen that you're looking at right now or that you're listening on. Click subscribe. We put out content very frequently on topics surrounding digital marketing, and we would love to continue to show you and help you on these topics that we're talking about. Our podcast is centered around a 5-step system that will help companies and business owners have success using digital marketing and social media. We have episodes that break each of these down in more detail, but at the start of every episode, I like to go through the 5 steps quickly so we can get everybody up to speed and we're all sort of on the same page and where we're at. So the first step in our digital marketing strategy is to find the right audience. We always feel like that's the most important step. Step 2 is to create the right content for that audience. Step 3 is to promote your business as a brand. Step 4 is to use ample resources. And step 5 is to analyze the results. Like I said, we have broken down each of those steps into its own episode, and you can start there and then build up to where we are today. Building on those 5 steps, though, are several different topics that we can just go on and on about that are also equally as important to your digital marketing and social media channels, just like the topic today, which we're going to discuss the search elements of digital marketing, whether we are searching for them or they are searching for us as marketers. With us again is John Meier to help us go through this topic today. John, thanks for being on the podcast.
No problem. What's up, Joe?
Not a lot. This is a really interesting topic, and I'm going to say it again so people understand what I'm saying. So when you're in digital marketing, there's 2 huge buckets that you're going to play with. One is I am searching for the audience that I am trying to market to, or the audience is searching for me. Okay. This is really important to understand because I think a lot of people fall into the trap of playing in throwing money in one of those buckets or the other, and then figuring out why that's not working. So, social media, and there's kind of a distinction here is between like the SEM, which is like your Google AdWords, and your social media. Social media is really heavy into I'm searching for them, and your Google SEM is really, really heavy into they're searching for us. Now, John is with us today as somebody who knows a ton about Google AdWords. He's done a ton of work on this. He works with our company. He's helped a ton of clients with this. So let's dive right into it, John. So when somebody is searching for us on Google, what do we have to understand about that and know about that so that the difference between that or if we're searching for them on a social media channel, how do we need to think differently about our marketing campaigns?
I think it's something you really got to think about when you're starting any campaign. If a client comes to us and is asking, hey, what's the best avenues for me to do my marketing? I think you really got to look at the individual businesses. That's not to say I think most businesses on some level can work on most platforms. You've probably seen that. I think you can make a lot of things work. There's branding you could do on Google, just like there's, maybe lead generation you can do on Facebook. But for the most part, Google is going to work best for businesses that there is somebody directly searching for that business. Mm-hmm. So if you have a service-based business, we do a lot in like the business trades. Those are really good on Google because there's a customer looking for, that service.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you hit it right on the head. It really does depend on the product or the service that you're actually offering, right?
Yep.
Because, if you think about it, if I'm searching for something that is going to require me to do a lot of research on, like if I'm going to be buying a new car, or if I'm going to be shopping for insurance or something that has, a really big sort of impact in my life, this is something that I'm probably going to want to do some research on. And when I do that, I'm going to go to Google, right? I'm going to start with Google. I'm going to type in things that I need. I think also people that use Google for the most part are things that they need right now. Let's say that I need a plumber, or let's say that I need I need medical advice or I need something quick. That's something that Google is really, really good at finding for me really fast.
Great point.
Some people will be buying the ad portion. We're clicking on the ad portion of Google because that's going to be appearing at the top. Other people with the organic. But still, the way that Google works, and maybe John can expand about this a little bit, the way that Google works when people are searching for us, regardless of it's the ad or it's the organic, they really are trying to show us and give us what we really are looking for, regardless if it's an ad or not. Is that true?
That's 100% accurate. And that's an important distinction too. We're specifically talking about buying ads to rank at the top of Google. There's a whole nother side to this, which is organic search. And hey, that's great. If you're a business that you're ranking at the top in Google for your specific keywords, I mean, that's awesome. But even so, you could rank number one. And if you're in any sort of competitive industry, you'll notice that even though you're number one, you're still halfway down the page because you probably have, 3 or so ads sitting at the top of the page. Then you get into your they call it the local pack with the businesses in the area. So even if you're organic, you're in, like I said, in most competitive spaces, you're still not right at the top. So Google Ads is definitely an important strategy for, a lot of different industries.
Yeah, definitely. And Google's whole business is based around people finding what they want quickly. I think that's why a lot of the older search engines that were trying to compete with Google early on didn't seem to work very well, because I think they went to like Yahoo and MSN and Ask and these other ones. I think they sort of went the route of, hey, let's be like an online magazine, or let's be like an online, review site or something like that, where Google they've kept their homepage the same forever. They haven't even changed it, because they're basically like, no, our business is you finding what you want. When you type that in, that's what we're going to give you, And I think it's really interesting now that we've talked about this a little bit to also contrast this with how you do marketing well in the social media world, because businesses, and you're right, John, businesses can do both, and a lot of them do, and most of them do, but you have to understand, are you doing call to action or are you doing branding? Okay. Right. And this is really important, because if you're a plumber, let's say you're a plumber in a local area. Okay. Brand awareness or brand affinity to a consumer in that particular industry, probably not that big of a deal. If somebody needs a plumber, if there's water in their basement, they're probably going to hire the first person that looks like a quality business that can get out there the fastest. That doesn't mean that on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter that we can't give people messages and images and videos and articles and reviews and all these things over time that build to that. But if somebody really needs that service, they're probably not going to go to Facebook to find a plumber. Now, they might go to their social network on Facebook group, or maybe ask an Instagram friend, or go on Twitter and ask their Twitter family, hey, who should I hire? But I do think that if that's that direct call to action that I need this, I'm going to Google. Definitely, almost every time. Would you agree with that?
100% agree. Yeah. And like you said, that's not to say you don't still do some of the branding stuff on the social platforms. I would focus a lot on Google for those type of businesses. And also too, like your Google My Business and all that. There's so many things you could optimize when you're like like we were talking about the business trades, that I think, Google is definitely the right place for you to be focusing marketing efforts for those sorts of businesses.
Now let's contrast that to something that somebody is not searching for us. And what do I mean when I say that? Let's say that we're promoting a concert. Let's say that we have a concert venue in our town, and they got this, little venue, and they've got this, the Eagles cover band is coming to town. And we just found out that the Eagles cover band is coming to town. Now, if we're doing that, how many people in our community, maybe that live within 10 to 20 miles, do we think are actually going to go on Google and type in Eagles cover band near me this month, right? That's where we go to social media and try to find people, right? That's when we're looking for them. And how do we do that? Well, the reason we do that is because let's back up just a little bit and back into the world of social media and how this all started. I remember, John, you were on MySpace, weren't you? Were you on MySpace? You must have been on MySpace.
I think so,
Friendster?
back in the day.
Were you on Friendster?
I don't remember that one.
Friendster was like the one below MySpace at the time.
Okay.
It really blew. But anyway, but on MySpace, really, this was like, for those of you that are like millennials, MySpace was the first basically, social media site that had any sort of clout in the market. And it was a pretty big deal for a while. They missed about, I don't know, a couple of hundreds of billions of dollars by messing this up. But anyway, what MySpace started was to give everybody a social media page for their person, and it allowed them to tell the world what they liked for free. Now, this was a big deal in the world of online marketing. The problem with MySpace was that it was very limited. They were only asking, you could only put a certain number of things on there, and it wasn't searchable and everything. When Facebook came around, this was where marketers started to get, salivate, because people are very narcissistic, and so they would tell the platform everything about themselves. I like this, I like that, I like to go here, I live here, I'm this old, this is my job, this is. So as a marketer, if I have an Eagles cover band coming to town, man, I got to tell you, Facebook is where I'm going to go. And I've done this before because I've been in concert promotion, because what I can do now is put a pin 20, 30 miles around my venue. Then I can go search for people that like the Eagles. Wow, amazing, right? I can find people that like Don Henley, and Joe Walsh, the members of the Eagles. I can even find people that like bands that are similar to the Eagles, like Fleetwood Mac or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Man, I'm really not that old. I'm only like 40. I'm not even 40 yet. I'm not like one of those guys. I just thought of it for some reason. Anyway, but now what I can do is I can go find these people. This is not something that people are going to be searching for, but now I can create content that they will see, that they will react to and say, oh, I'm not searching for that, but a marketer put this in front of me and I'm going to click on that because I like that. It's a distinct difference between the two platforms. It's something that you really wouldn't do very much on Google, but you would do it on Facebook, and you can use it both ways, right?
Yeah, I think that was a great analogy for good uses of Facebook specifically. I think you're right on with how you would think about that for a concert venue. And again, that's why every business is different. Now, within similar industries, you know, if you have similar clients and similar industries, you kind of already know where the best places are. But every business is going to be a little different. So you definitely got to think about these things going into your marketing campaigns.
Yeah. And so good companies, I think, that market well understand that there are two sides of this, and that if you use both effectively, and if you understand how both of these work effectively, then they actually will work very well for you. For example, let's say I'm in Chicago. Now, John's in Arizona. So it's cold here right now. So I know it's not cold where you are, but John's a Cubs fan, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just like me, he's a Cubs fan. So here's another idea that just popped into my head. Let's talk about this. Let's say that John and I decide to start this ice cream company, and I want to make Chicago Cubs ice cream bars. Okay. You might look at me and say, that is a stupid product and nobody's ever going to search for that. That's true, but that's not necessarily a product that nobody wants to buy. Because if I find people that like the Cubs that live in, the Chicagoland area, and I market to them the right way, that's a product that somebody might want to buy. Now we contrast that let's say that I'm an insurance company, I sell car insurance. This is something that probably most people are going to want to find on Google I need car insurance. Nobody's going to be thinking about car insurance unless they're thinking about it, right? But what if I hire Chicago Cubs baseball player, a famous one, to be on my ad so that when you're on Google and you type in car insurance, you see that player, you're drawn to him, but we're selling car insurance, right? So there's a difference where I could take like basically the same brand, the Chicago Cubs, use it in two completely different ways. One where people are searching for me and one where I'm searching for them. And if I'm using them effectively, both those campaigns could be successful, right?
Yeah. Right on. Okay.
Very good. So, all right. So here's another question. I don't know if either of those search ways of searching is better than the other. I've thought about this before. I've thought, man, if I had only a limited amount of marketing dollars and I had to go one way or the other, let's say that I was like a pumpkin farm, right? Like we have had clients that have been this before. And in the fall, we've done a heavy camp. Typically for the year, we're running branding campaigns for them all year, right? Because nobody's searching for a pumpkin farm in January. But what happens to that search volume come September? It skyrockets. So John, I want to ask you, so if you had only one way to go, like with your pumpkin farm, like in the fall, and you had a pretty good following on social media, but you knew that there were thousands and thousands of people that were searching for this on Google, which one would you pick?
That's a tough call. And again, I think it's so specific to that business. Now the question would be, are you saying like overall with marketing, or are you saying that specific month?
Well, I think for that specific season, I think if you have limited marketing dollars, you have in that case, you actually have really strong marketing on both sides. You have really strong social media, but you also have really strong Google. And if you don't have like the budget for both, then sometimes you have in marketing, sometimes we have to make calls, we have to pick things. And would we choose, are they searching for us or are we searching for them? It's kind of an interesting call. I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer.
Yeah, and I think with that, you have to look at data. You have to look at what's your cost, for each platform in terms of impressions, clicks, views. What does that look like, and measure those against each other? I think data is really important when you're looking at any of these, because we have Google ad clients that it's very expensive, your cost per click it's very competitive, but if you can make sure they're getting conversions, it's worth it. But again, you have to look at these things for your own business. And going back to that case, I think you'd have to look at the data, or whatever budget you have, split it up. Do both and see which one's performing better, and then focus more of your efforts there.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we have done or would do. And I think what's interesting you mentioned too is that it's not necessarily, this process really can be vetted. You can really prove which one of these is going to work better for you. But there's more to it than just having somebody react to your ad, react to your content. Where you send them right after they click on that ad or that content is also going to make a big difference. So in the two distinctions, if I'm on social media and somebody clicks on my ad, I can send them to my social media page. I could send them to Instagram. Hey, this is my Instagram post. Go to my Instagram page. I can send them to the Facebook page. But on Google, we would send them to a website or a landing page, and that would be another factor on how this would play out. True?
Correct. Now, one distinction I'll make there with Google, a lot of times what you see is people will make calls right from the ads. So you do see that where, again, talking about more of the business trades, someone might just call directly from the ad because that's an option. It's a click to call from Google. So it doesn't always go right to the landing page or website, but for the most part it does. But you can do calls right from the ad. So, but again, what you're talking about though is, especially on Google, website optimization is very important. So I think you could, if your website's not optimized, I think you could actually probably run Google ads and maybe think they're not working, but it might be more of a website kind of problem that, your contact info is not, readily available, or your site's not easy to navigate. So I think, Google ads, we may have talked about this in past episodes. I always say Google ads is like half of the equation. The other half is your website or landing page.
Yeah. And that's totally true, because I think we've all seen that firsthand. And looking at some of those metrics, like you mentioned earlier, and how you prove with us this works, I think we should break this down for some people. So, it's real heavy on Google is kind of referred to as this PPC sort of thing, which is called pay per click. And because essentially on Google, you're only paying Google when somebody clicks on your ad. Is that what's going on over there?
Um, that is a bidding strategy.
Okay.
So I think that's an easy, kind of simple way to look at it. But when you're actually setting up your campaigns, you could choose other ways to bid per conversion. There's other things. But I think, like, again, at a basic level, yes, you're kind of paying for clicks.
Yeah.
So.
And so on Google, there are other ways to do it, but typically that's what people do when they're in Google. They're saying, look, you can show my ad 10,000 times. If nobody clicks on it, I don't really have to pay you. Not that that would ever happen, but that is sort of the idea. On social media, it's a little different though. When you're trying to find people, it's just reverse of that. While you can do PPC on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, you can. Most people don't. Most people buy impressions. So most people are saying, hey, this is how many people are in my audience. Maybe there's 100,000 people of my Chicago Cubs fans that want to buy my ice cream cone or that I'm making. And they say, well, I want to market to, 20% of them, 20,000 people a month. And this is my budget. And so then what I do is I create that content and then I'm showing it to people and I'm paying per impression. I'm paying what's called a CPM. Cost per 1,000 impressions. We did an episode on analyzing the results. And we talked a lot about, calculating this and how to do that. But that's another distinct difference between these two major categories when it comes to digital marketing. Typically when people are searching for you, you're showing them something, and when they click on it, boom, then you're paying. And when you're searching for people, when you're searching for them based on their demographic information, typically you're buying as many impressions as you can afford or as that you think you can afford, showing it to them and trying to see what the engagement is per those impressions. And I think that's another distinct difference between those two styles of marketing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a distinction between the platforms. Facebook, you're building an audience and finding that audience and seeing if that audience is interested in your content. Google, you're building an ad targeted at a specific set of keywords. And again, that's another conversation, how you set up your keywords.
That's like 10 episodes.
How you do all that. But I think that distinction is definitely right on with the platforms. And now I will say, I will say this, that there is some of that in Google, like the building an audience and doing YouTube ads or display banner ads. So there really is some of that. In Google. I don't think, most of our clients, we're pretty typically looking for a specific conversion, some sort of contact form or a phone call. So I have not found that the more branding type of things works as well on Google. Now, I do think if you were looking at it just from branding, I do think there is some opportunity there. And I think when you would look at it more, how you would look at Facebook with impressions and how people are interacting with that content. I do think there is some opportunity on Google, but again, most of the time I feel like when people are doing Google, they're looking for some sort of specific conversion.
Yeah. And the same is true for social media, because you can run straight up PPC conversion campaigns and all this stuff. It's just, it's kind of just the reverse. Like I said before, like it's the majority of Google is going to be this PPC. The majority of social media is going to be this impression based marketing. But I think, this is kind of interesting just to think about is that, Google has been around for a pretty long time. And so is Facebook. They're in direct competition with one another. And so they're both evolving in order to be, because Google knows that it's all for them. They've got the, people searching. It's almost illegal what they're doing, that they have. I think they just got indicted by the government.
Something. Yeah.
Several times I think they've had this because they really do have a monopoly. Now, Facebook probably doesn't have as big of a monopoly, but with collecting people's information and being able to distinguish between people and what they like and where they live and what they do. They have almost this sort of monopoly thing going over here. Both of these businesses would love to have each other's businesses as well. So that's why Facebook is moving a lot towards this, business to business kind of thing. And Google is trying to move towards, this business, this more like fun, social media aspect with Google My Business and just all these other things that they're doing. And so I think it's interesting to see that, wow, hopefully we'll have more than one company, but I'd hate to have just one company somewhere in the future
I
doing
know.
all of this. That would be a little scary.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, all right, well, good. I think this is a good nugget for people to think about. So again, when you're starting your marketing campaigns, I think it's really important to understand what kind of business or service that you have. Typically, if you're like a high ticket item or something that people don't think about very much, right? Like it's something they're only thinking about when they're thinking about it, and it's more of like a high ticket item. Google is going to be the place you're going to go, because I can walk through, in the physical world, if I'm walking through the mall, well, I don't really have malls anymore, but if I'm walking through the mall and the jewelry store is having a sale, like, I don't care. I'm not interested. Jewelry stores are always having a sale, right? But if I just realize that my wife's anniversary, my wife and I's anniversary is a month from now, and I need to get some jewelry, oh, wow, they're having a sale, right? That's the mentality, I think, when you're finding that people are searching for you. They're not really paying attention to what you're saying until they're actually interested. And then they're going to go to Google and type in, diamond bracelet near me or jewelry store near me, right? But on Facebook, it's that thing where it's like, man, and social media, it's like, these are going to be typically going to be products going to be easier to digest, right? Yeah. I don't need to spend a ton of time. We're talking back to that concert that we talked about earlier. If I'm having a concert in my community, great. I'm going to be charging $20. It might be on a Friday night, whatever. It's not as big of a commitment as me spending, a couple of $1,000 on a piece of jewelry. So yeah, me coming at you and saying, hey, spend a couple hours with us next week. And I think that understanding, those sorts of things is like, are people thinking about your product all the time? Or is it something that they really will react to emotionally? Or is it something they're just not interested? They're just going to want to come to you when they're thinking about it.
And I think we may have mentioned this on a past episode, but I think a really good way to look at it too is Facebook is more of like a billboard, and Google is more like what the Yellow Pages used to be. And, it's someone's directly looking for that. And I thought you brought up a good point earlier about if there's something like very immediate that someone needs. One of our clients is a restoration business. So if you get flooding in your house, that's Google, right? Like that someone needs that right away. Now, that's a great company to market on Google. So
and I think, again, we said this earlier, companies that are really successful at marketing are going to use both things. A restoration company can still do a great job of branding themselves on social media by providing information about sump pumps and mold and all these things, and clean, how to clean and all these things that you can build a community around that, and people will respond, and you will get business from that. Having that element, it's a little harder to do. I think it requires a little more attention. Whereas on the Google side of things, it's like, you're competing with 50 other companies that are saying like, I can come to your house right now and solve your problem. So you should call me because of XYZ. This is my competitive advantage. And like you said, when I click on the Google ad, go to that web page. Do I trust it? Right? Does it look good? Do I understand what is it? Does it have what I need? And I guess to another point is, do they pick up the phone when I call, or do they respond to my email when I send their email? And I think if you're companies that can use both, but I think it's important to understand, are you more interested in branding? Are you more interested in buying impressions and getting out there? Or are you more interested in direct call to action? Understanding which those are, I think, will be a big deal in understanding, are your customers searching for you, or are you searching for them? Right?
Definitely. And, in a lot of cases, I won't say this as much. I'd say most of our Google ad clients should probably on some level be doing something on social media and branding as well. I don't know that the reverse is true. I don't know that everyone should run Google ads, but I would probably say that most companies that could run Google ads successfly probably should be doing at least something on the social platforms for branding as well.
Right.
Would you agree?
Totally would agree. I think, in that work, we actually did an episode on digital marketing goals. And one of them one of the 5-6 goals that Jillian and I laid out, one of them was like, your goal is that they're not sure what the heck they're doing on social media, but it's like a necessary evil. Like they know they have to be there. You have to be, right? You just have to be on there. But I agree. You don't necessarily have to be on Google. No. It's maybe,
and for some businesses, Google might not work that great. And that's something you have to look at. So,
but if you're pulling your hair out on either Google or Facebook or Instagram or something, and I mean, I would say, or if you're getting ready to start a campaign, I would just take that notion. Are my customers searching for me or am I searching for them? Take a step back, think about that, and understand how these digital platforms play into what you're actually trying to do. So great. Well, hey, great job, John. Thanks for your insight. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please subscribe to our podcast. If you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them about digital marketing or otherwise. Visit relevantelephant.net. Send us a message. Find us on Facebook or Instagram. Shoot us a message. We'd be happy to answer that for you. As we always say, if you took the time to listen to us, we'd be more than happy to take time to listen to you. Please subscribe to our podcast. Come back, check out other episodes. And as I always say, stop posting, start marketing.